to the BizBlend Podcast, listeners. This is the show where bold ideas meet practical action and where we explore how real leaders build, pivot, and grow. Now, today we are talking about what it really means to, or what it really takes to scale when your marketing team is small, but expectations are anything. Our guest, Amber Britton, is marketing and growth leader at Doppler, a fast growing B2B SaaS company, and someone who's no stranger to reinvention. From touring musician to tech leader, she's navigated customer success, product management, and GTM strategy, all while building the kind of career that challenges what ready even means. So, if you are leading with limited resources, wearing multiple hats, or you're wondering whether to take that bold leap into something bigger, this one's for you. So, let's dive in. So, Amber, welcome to the show, and I'm really happy to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, and what a glowing intro.
Okay, Amber, exciting journey, and let's talk about marketing from a perspective of a small team. So now, since we are, obviously we have to talk about AI. So how do small marketing teams use AI and systems to look 10x bigger without burning out?
Yeah, I mean, first, very carefully. Uh, I think a lot of marketers are either looking to start using AI or are kind of afraid of it and maybe thinking it's a fad. But I don't think it's a fad. I think it's here to stay. I think that there's going to be a difference in the future of those that know how to work with AI and those that do not. So it's similar to how you don't really have to say you know how to use Google Suite or Microsoft Office anymore. It's just assumed that you know how to use those programs. I think AI is going to be very similar. And if you're a small team, AI can act as that extension. It can help you get 70-80% of the way there on something, which saves you a ton of time. That thing that might have taken days or weeks can now take minutes. And it can absolutely help you if you're not able to hire and really build out a large team. It can help bridge that gap until you have funding or hiring opens up or something of the like. Uh, but you have to do it really carefully. You have to know what your team is putting into it. AI tools are using whatever you put in to train on their models. And you want to make sure your team is not putting proprietary information in there. So, um, using it for things like copywriting is really great for scheduling things, for helping organize notes or do some analysis, so long as it's not, like I said, proprietary data that you're asking it to analyze. Uh, and I think one of the easiest ways to do that, to make sure your whole team is kind of working in the same way, is to set up um, like custom built GPTs. So for ChatGPT specifically, you can build very easily without needing to know how to code. You can build a custom GPT. We have one for social that knows everything that we want to do in social, the channels that we want to appear on, the strategy that we have for social. It knows our voice, it knows our content guidelines. And we all use the same GPT. So that way we're all getting the same voice. We all make sure that it's, you're not just copy pasting what you get from that into a social post. You're still making sure to edit and use your own critical thinking. But it helps us when we're not able to hire a social media marketer at this time. It helps extend our team. So carefully and curated. Make sure that you know those dead giveaways for when someone is using AI and not in a great way.
Of course, of course. Those are some really, kind of cool and very unique insights that you've shared. And when we talk about small marketing teams or companies or maybe just a startup, they have a very small marketing team. How different uh, marketing becomes in terms of strategy or focus for a small team in comparison to a big, large company or an enterprise?
Yeah, I think for a small team, you really have to know what roles are critical right now, what roles are going to make or break the business, and what is the core problem that your marketing team needs to solve. I have heard from founders before that, marketing doesn't work. We don't need marketing. People will just find us. And that's unfortunately not how it works. um, unless you have some like viral product that solves a problem that no one has ever solved before, you don't have this inherent virality. And even when you do start to get that virality, eventually the fad tapers off and you still need marketing to continue growing. The biggest brands in the world still have marketing teams, even though they really don't need it and they're ubiquitous. So for a small team, if especially if you're fighting the battle of like we don't know what marketing does or marketing doesn't work, it's about knowing what you need right now in the business. At Doppler, we knew a couple years ago when we were talking about this and what the marketing team would look like, our biggest issue was needing leads for our enterprise sales team, and that means demand gen. So knowing that that's the role that exists and that's the role that you need right now is the first step. And then you kind of start to, you go from there, but you figure out what this person is going to do and how they're going to be measured, and everything marketing is doing really needs to try to drive that bottom line as much as possible. It's not always you can't always do one-to-one attribution anymore. It's a different world than it was 10 years ago. So you have to be comfortable explaining how you're having an impact without being able to say this one thing drove this one sign up or this one lead. You have to know that it's kind of all of these things working together. And it's difficult to start to get comfortable with and difficult to persuade executives on. And then once you kind of prove it out with that one role, you can start to see what this next role would be. But everyone is kind of fighting that battle or making that convincing case of why this role right now? How is this going to help us hit our goals? And then you just have to know that those other roles, which may be great to have, and in a larger team, you'd be able to have them because each person on the team wouldn't have this pressure to drive this bottom line as much. You'll get there eventually, but in a small team, every role is so critical. So I would love to have a social media person full time. We're not ready for that yet. There's other impact we need to drive first. So we're doing social, but not in the way that I really want to do it, but I just can't justify it yet. You know what I mean? So it's just constantly having that battle, knowing what works, and a lot of educating. You have to evangelize for your team, be really visible with what you're doing and how you're driving an impact. And you can look like a much bigger team. I get that feedback all the time, even from internal employees as well as customers who are shocked when they find out our marketing team is so small. They think we're a much bigger company than we are.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And then I absolutely agree with the point. Many of the founders, and this especially, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. This especially more relevant in the B2B sector, where your customer, maybe the target customer segment is niche or focused. The founder kind of, they believe that I don't need marketing at this point of time right now. Let me first build on the tool, the service, or anything, or the product, and I'll think about it. But I absolutely agree with you. At least from a personal branding perspective as well, uh, building or working on marketing can be such a huge driver in sales, especially for B2B. I mean, if I would love to hear from you. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, B2B is tough. B2B is a tough space, I think. And most of my or all of my tech career has been in B2B. And I think that it takes a special kind of person to do B2B because you aren't getting millions of users necessarily using your product every day. You're not getting millions of visits. It's not like a B2C site where you can apply to such a broad group of people. You're right. You mentioned that it is very niche. And you're you're selling your product to someone who's going to buy it without their own money, right? So it's not their money they're parting with. It's their company's money. So things that work in B2C where you might, certain discounts or ways of framing a discount work differently. They still work, but they work differently in B2B because it's not my money. And it It takes a lot. You have to know that the buying cycle is longer. There are multiple different personas that you're going after. There is the person who's the buyer, but that buyer isn't necessarily the user of your software. So you have to appeal to both the buyer and the user. The user is likely going to end up being your champion, but they have very different needs. They're going to look at it very, very differently. And you really need to build those advocates. You need to get the attention of both groups. So trying to make sure you're doing the right content, the right SEO strategy, that you have things on your site or things that your team is putting out that appeal to both types of personas at very different maybe levels of seniority. And then there are so many B2B software companies, especially in my side of cybersecurity, that you also have to stand out because they all start to look the same. So then how do you rise above the noise? And in certain industries like cybersecurity, often brands are very formal. It's a very serious topic, right? Cybersecurity. So, and your buyers are often very serious. And most brands are very serious in their marketing, or very, sometimes even fear tactics are used. And I really love that at Doppler, we are a serious product, but we are okay with being a normal type of brand voice. We don't try to use a lot of business jargon. We try to meet people where they are, talk to them how they're people. We're trying to talk to them like people. We make jokes, we have fun with it. And that helps us stand out from other brands in a big way. Because people really gravitate to our swag at a conference because our swag stands out. Everyone's giving out cups and t-shirts, and sure, we're also giving out t-shirts, but our t-shirts have a very provocative curse word on them, and people really like that, and it gets their attention. So there's ways to do it. It's just a little different. Your buying cycle is harder, but if you can find a way to stand out among all of the other B2B companies with some differentiator in your brand voice, or your display, which you have to do by auditing everyone else in your space and keeping tabs on them, then you really can rise above that noise and make a big splash with a small budget.
Well, that's quite insightful. Quite insightful. Okay, Amber, talking about your transition. I mean, from creativity to creative field to entrepreneurship, music to tech. I mean, that is super awesome. And then from customer success to GTM. Um, what's one moment you felt? So I'm gonna have two questions here.
Okay.
Number um, what kind of learnings or experiences you did you apply, or you had to apply from your time in music and in entrepreneurship? And secondly, any particular moment when you felt like maybe this is not something I'm qualified for, or I'm not ready for, but you did it anyway?
Yeah, the second one makes me laugh, but I'll start with the first one. For the first question, like what translated really from like being a musician to a professional career, especially in tech. Um, I think the thing that helped me the most is in music. I was a lead singer for bands for many, many years, and so I'm very comfortable in front of a crowd. I'm very comfortable, talking off the cuff, improving when you're playing a show and all of your equipment doesn't work. Or one time I ripped the cord out of my microphone in the middle of a song, or I forgot the lyrics. Like those things happen, and you have to roll with it. And so my ability to roll with the punches, to really easily adapt to any situation, to get up in front of people and talk, even with no preparation, those are skills I learned from being a musician and touring. Um, those served me very, very well and still do today. And it definitely can tell when someone has been a musician or an actor or some sort of creative performer, because you are just naturally a bit of a better presenter and a better speaker. So those are definitely the big ones. I think also being scrappy, when if things aren't working and you've got to, duct tape something together and, make it work. I can do that very easily as well. Like it might take 2 weeks to automate the system, but there's this very manual way we could get started on it today. And I'm okay with jumping in and, rolling up my sleeves and getting my hands dirty, so to speak. For the second question, every day I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Um, every day I'm like, I don't know who allowed me to be a grown up. I still feel like a teenager in a adult woman's body, and constantly feel like I have imposter syndrome. I am very lucky that other people don't seem to notice that and are very surprised when I say it. But I got to keep going, right? I can't let that fear hold me back. One thing I do, and that's happening a lot, I'm actually was doing it yesterday. If there's something that I'm going into a new area or I need to evaluate maybe changing up something on the team or um, someone on my team, a good example, someone on my team wanted to move into a different role, and it's a role I've never held. So I don't know anything about that role, and I want to set her up for success. I don't want to give her this role and then not know how to support her, manage her, help her grow. So I reach out to people in my network who have those roles and I ask their advice. How am I thinking? Am I thinking about this the right way? How should I think about it? What should this person be doing? How should they be measured? Your network is a very powerful thing. The people that you've worked with or the people that know people you've worked with that you could be introduced to. So that also really, really helps me. Um, and I think ultimately I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't take those chances. Like when I first got into tech, I was in customer success and then I pivoted into product because I just had this like curiosity and someone saw that in me and offered me this chance to take this jump. And I'm really passionate about product management. I thought I found it when I moved into product. I thought this was finally where I was meant to be. And then a couple years later, I was offered a chance to be a product growth manager. And I had no idea what a product growth manager did, but I took the job because it was an opportunity that was new and I was terrified. But I was like, what could go wrong? The worst that could happen is they let me go and then I find another job, right? So I learned that growth was a beautiful blend of marketing, which is my education, and product, which I really love. And then that led me with all of my experience in marketing and now in product and just different facets of the business, led me into GTM and now overseeing a marketing team and product growth and doing consulting for other startups. And every time I do it, I'm like, I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like just pushing past that fear and taking the shot. What is the worst that can happen? Like the worst that can happen is someone doesn't like it, right? It's not the end of the world. And so just being okay and being uncomfortable and taking that shot is how you make big leaps.
I love that take. I really, really love that take. There is one common, it's kind of, your signature phrase. What's the worst that can happen? So I really love that. That's really, really inspiring because sometimes some founders will say that, oh my goodness, I have to do this or this is done. If this doesn't work out, it's the end of uh, the work I've done, the effort, the time I've put into this. Um, and before we wrap up, Amber, uh, some argue, so it's a bit of a flip question. Some would argue that automation, that too, in this age of AI, with AI, it kind of leads to generic output, because now gradually everyone is now becoming aware of how to use GPTs and tools for not only content but presentations, videos, images, and everything. So there is a chance that it leads to a generic output and a loss of human touch. Do you think that small teams they risk sacrificing creativity for scale or growth?
That's a great question. I think it's definitely a risk. It's something to be concerned about for sure. But that's where you have to be smart about how you use AI and how you automate. You can't just cut and paste whatever you get from an AI output. You can't. That is where it's so obvious. I can tell anytime I see a brand's marketing, I can tell if they're using AI not in a smart way. There are just dead giveaways, and they change as AI tools learn more. I've seen it move differently, and I've seen some of those telltale signs start to shift into new ones. So one example is the word seamlessly or effortlessly. every brand is suddenly out of nowhere using those 2 words, and it's because ChatGPT specifically loves those words. And we explicitly make sure they are removed from all of our marketing. And we didn't know that at first, and we were using it, and we thought it sounded good, and then we started to see a pattern. So it's constantly auditing what you're getting as that output and not just copy and pasting it. Use it to get you 80% of the way there, but then that extra 20%, that's why you work there. That is your superpower that the AI doesn't have. You have all of that extra context. You have that human voice. So getting it almost over the finish line, but then you have to make sure that you're tweaking it, that you're updating it, and then you have to make sure you're constantly evaluating. Constantly look at how your marketing's performing, test it, ask users. There's a great software that I use, and full disclosure, I do some product consulting for them too, called Winware, but Doppler uses them, and some other really great brands use them. They are basically a messaging. They help marketing teams with messaging testing. So I can set up, I can take a PDF of our webpage, or I can send users to a live webpage, or I can give them 2 different versions of an ad creative, or 2 different versions of a white paper, whatever it is. And then they will go source people in our ideal customer profile who are not users. I explicitly want feedback most of the time from non-users because I'm trying to attract users that don't know who we are. And we are able to survey them. They are, Winware takes care of all of the sourcing and incentivizing. We get verified LinkedIn profiles, so we know they're real people. They get an incentive. They give really thorough feedback. And it's super helpful to know if our messaging is resonating or what's missing. So constantly testing that output you're getting is working, and then using your own brain at taking those insights and creating new versions of that, or knowing the things that rub your ICP the wrong way so you can update future content. Like that 20% that's your power. So just don't copy paste, and if you see seamlessly or effortlessly, know that it's a lazy use of AI.
Yeah, I get that. That's great, great, Amber. And if our listeners they would like to connect with you, what will be the best way to do that?
LinkedIn is great. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can search my name. Pretty easy to find. Feel free to connect with me there. And you'll see me all over Doppler's TikTok account as well. I do a lot of the videos for the brand. So feel free to find me there too.
Of course, I'll make sure to mention all the details in the show notes. And Amber, this was such a cool and awesome conversation. I mean, thank you so much for sharing the unfiltered side of marketing, especially from the perspective of small teams and startups, transitions, transformation, pivoting, and then of course reinvention. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And to all the listeners, whether you are building scrappy or leading scared, I would love to say that sometimes your next leap it doesn't come with always a blueprint. Sometimes it's good to be messy or scrappy or just to push through and you kind of build it mid-air. So with that, if today's episode has sparked something within you, share this, tag us and keep the conversation going. Until next time on BizBlend, keep blending boldness with strategy. Thank you.